Welcome back to the Pulse, folks. My name is Matt. This is Crypto Heartbeat. It is 1 o'clock Central Texas time, and I'm so glad to see you. What a day. What a day it's been. What a day we had yesterday. Texan up 63%. People asking me, what happened? If I knew, I'd tell you. A lot of things have happened. A lot of things have happened across crypto, but the biggest story of all of it is that ultimately we get a chance at restoring the republic. And we're going to be talking about the concept of restoration. And originally, you saw from the thumbnail, this is called restoration, but I included restoration of the republic because I wanted to tie this into what we're doing with the Texan token. And I know that there are a lot of new people who like literally saw this crazy chart that on the daily was up 63%. And they're like, well, what is this all about? So many new people, so many inquiries, so many people going, what is this thing? So we'll be talking about that as well. But here at Crypto Heartbeat, what we talk about is we talk about the why. Why are we doing what we're doing? Because without vision, the people perish. And we don't want to see anybody perish, do we? We don't want to see a single person perish. Because here's the thing, folks, we live in the context of a framework of essentially a system. And that system's been created in a certain way. And if you learn about how it is created and how creation works, you have an advantage. But what is that advantage for? And that's what we talk about here at Crypto Heartbeat. It's so good to have you back. Boy, I tell you, it's a whole new world. And it's not just about bull runs and when Lambo, although it comes along with that. And that's part of the reason we've been attracted to this whole thing. It's because it's exciting. It's exciting, right? Why? Because it's full of hope. We got a shot. We got a shot. But there's so many more things. When you know about what is right, what is true, it resonates. You ring a bell and it just resonates? Yeah. You know when something's true, you're attracted to it like moth to flame, right? Well, what is it? Well, it's the essence of community. One of the things that's hard is being left out. You ever felt left out? The essence of FOMO, fear of missing out, is this idea that I would be left behind, that I would miss out on something. And so many people are worried. Well, boy, I missed things out. Are you a person who talks about regrets? I've got regrets in my life. Folks, we're moving forward. Nothing is lost. All things are redeemed and all things will be restored. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. It is great to see you. Let's get into the chat and then we'll get into the content. What a day. What a day it is. March 15th, folks. This is the beginning of a new season. It is springtime here in Central Texas and the blue bonnets are coming out and there's nothing like them. I'll tell you what, we live in God's country here, my friends. Folks, we're going to be talking about the restoration of you, of me, of the Republic, of it all. Taryn, good day. What's going on? Good day, all. Crypto Compassion. Hello, everyone. Hornet UK is like, when Lambo, man? And I know what you mean by that. When the Lambo, right? What is the picture of the Lambo? But you with all the attention, focused on you. You must be important. You're driving this lime green Lambo. Man, you must be special. You must be set aside. You must be successful. You must have a lot of money. You must be better than me. Man, when Lambo. And I know you're teasing me with that. Hex Farmer, what's going on? Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, Matt. Good afternoon to you and David Lee. David Lee is always the constant reminder of what are we doing this for? And what are the ancillary benefits of One Lambo? The love, the hug of your neck by David Lee. That's what he needs to write his own book, right? The hug of your neck by David Lee. What's up, Paul Opta 7? Hello, everyone. Good to see you. Nate Mintz, not Nate Steaks, not Nate Snakes. But you know what? In Texan, he's still Nate Steaks to me because he is staking it until he's making it. We've got a leprechaun in the house, folks. We're getting ready for that day, right? What's the day? Where you get out your frosted Lucky Charms. JB, what's going on? Yo, Hexagon, sup, y'all? Everybody's got a spring in their step today. I do. Man, I'll tell you, when resistance goes, we went from what? 4 zeros and a 2 to 4 zeros and a 6 at the top, and we're kind of settling in at 4 zeros and a 5. It's an incredible pump, and there's a lot of things that kinda go into what this looks like, but what's amazing is the pioneers take the arrows and the settlers take the land, folks. You are a part of the settlement group. This is a new era in the financial system, and I've been preaching it for over a year now, and folks, you're seeing it happen right now. Credit Suisse, whew, banks are failing. Contagion is real, but guess what, folks? It has to burn. Burn, baby, burn. Texan Tailgun, let's go. What's up, Forrest? Good to see you. Texan Tailgate is a brand new, fun, energetic, lively hangout show that's at Sunday nights, and you'll be blessed if you watch it. So you want to go over to Texan Tailgate and check them out. That's a new Texan channel, and it sounds fun, doesn't it? Kind of hanging out on the tailgate, yeah, in the warm summer evenings. David, good to see you. Joey Torres in the house. Hex Hund. Good afternoon, Matt. It's 5 a.m. in Melbourne. I couldn't sleep since 4 a.m. Got up hoping I could catch a live Crypto Heartbeat stream. Here I am. Dude, that's so fantastic. You know, it's amazing to me, time zones and everything that changes and people experiencing different parts of the same story. You know about jet lag, right? Jet lag. We weren't meant to like travel that fast. And of course it wreaks havoc on our system, but we're so tied to that solar cycle. And that's really a part of the framework and how it all works and what restoration looks like, right? We got to understand how it's all built. But Hexon, thanks for being here. I appreciate that. I was like you, 4 a.m. yesterday, got up and made the mistake of looking at my phone. And I was like, something's happening. Something serious is happening. So if anything else, we're excited about it. But you know what? Here's the cool thing about crypto. All you can do is you can get up and worry about the day. You can't worry about tomorrow, right? And so what do? You chop some wood, folks. You get out there. You do your best. Let tomorrow worry about itself. You worry about today. Do your best. Do what you were created to do. Raymond, to music, why was everyone buying this token last night? It's crazy, right? There's a lot of reasons. Good question, Raymond. If you've got any questions and you're new, welcome. One, glad that you're here. Two, if you got any questions, we're here to serve you. That's what we're all about. David Lee knows all about that. Traveled 7.5 hours from my dad to my dad's funeral. I didn't know him well. We talked on the phone, but there he shows up and helps a brother in need, shows love to one another in community. And that's what separates the Hexicans, in my opinion. But Raymond or anyone else that's new, if you've got a question, put it in the chat. I'll answer anything. Because here's the thing, we understand that when we consider others in addition to ourselves and we serve people, that's how we all win. That's the essence of decreeing your own value. As we tokenize communities and move forward, we have to serve, right? We have to have a vision for serving others. That's how we unlock generosity. Folks, it is so good to see you. It is so good to see you. And I am going to do something real quick. I have, many of you know this, I've got diabetes. And so I've got this I'm like a cyborg. I've got a sensor on my arm. It lasts for 2 weeks and it checks your blood sugar without you like pricking your finger, which is fantastic. Raymond, welcome. Good to see you here. Magnus, hey folks, good to see you. Susie Q, back again. Hi, Amazing Crypto Heartbeat. Good to see you. Susie Q has one of the best attitudes, and attitude is everything, right? Because we only have one day to worry about. So let's have a good attitude about today. And that's what we're planning on doing. Drix is in the house. What's up, Crypto Heartbeat? Dude, Drix, thanks for being here and coming back. And of course, Hexiquin. Hexiquin, she knows how to clip up the funnies, right? Clip up the funny stuff. That was so great, Hexiquin. I laughed so hard. It was so great. Thanks for doing that. Exciting hope. Absolutely. That's what it is. It's hope. It's like condensed, consolidated, syrupy, sweet hope. That's what it is. Susie Q with the love. Godfather J6 stepping in, saying hello. Ivan Mandip. Hey, Matt, what's going on? Glad to see you're here. Welcome back. Everybody's waking up. You know who woke up? And it's funny, that there are certain indicators that you're moving into a new era in the financial market. And that is when Crypto Panda shows up. He is back on Twitter and he's posting stuff. He's getting back into action. And I know it's like the groundhog. Crypto Panda was hibernating during the bear market and he is back in action. We're going to bring him on the stream at some point here. But today we're going to be talking about restoration. David Lee with the love. Crypto Pay. Good morning, folks. I'll have to catch up on the stream after work. Have a great day, peeps. Thanks for stopping in and saying hello at 7 a.m. in New Zealand. What a beautiful, beautiful place, New Zealand. One of the most beautiful places on planet Earth. New tweet from Richard Hart. Andrew, thank you for mentioning that. I'm going to have to check that out. Richard has been busy. We looked at the GitHub, GitLab. Yeah, one of those two. I think it's, yeah, wherever the developers are in Richard Hart, there's activity as of today, all of them. So it's pretty exciting. Maybe we've got V3 coming soon. It could be. We could see it by the end of this evening. Wouldn't that be fantastic? Hugs are here at the Texan Token. If you want to connect with David Lee and others in the admin chat and you want to learn anything about the Texan Token, you got questions, we have the best admins in all of crypto. And around the clock, around the sun, they're going to help you answer any questions you have, because you probably saw this crazy chart, this one right here. And you're like, what is that? I'm asking the same question, folks. People are seeing that there's something afoot, something has shifted, something has changed, and we got the evidence to show. Hex Monkey knows this. He's known this all along. We had dinner in Las Vegas and connected, and what a great supporter of Hex, of Pulse Chain, of PulseX, of Texan. You know, people realize in a community that we win together, and Hex Monkey understands that so well. Good morning, Texicans. Have a blessed day. Fantastic. DJ and Dougie Peach is here. We can have ourselves an official stream. What's up, DJ and Dougie? How will the initial distribution of Unifier token happen, if such a thing will happen? So in theory, and these things will change, but what we know now is that it is a claimable incentive token. It's an incentive for holding a max stake length endowment. So for example, if you have a 22-year, and we may be a little bit flexible with this to say it's 20 years or more. But then if you have a 5555 stake, or you've got an Ophir 22-year stake, or any project that or any community that we tokenize, well, what we want to promote is obviously these long stakes. If you have a long stake, then you're qualified to come in. So we read the blockchain. You'll be able to come in every 30 days and you'll be able to claim a portion of Unifier tokens based on that stake's principal stake. We don't have all the details figured out, but that's the essence of it. And so you're basically going to be qualified because of what you hold in that wallet. And then you're going to be able to mint, right? So you will actually create Unifier tokens based on that every 30 days. It drives a lot of good behavior, but it also gives you something that you can sell, right? And having something you can sell reduces the sell pressure on the native token in your community. But it also is going to have a DEX, which is called Freedom Swap, which the protocol fees, when you do any swaps of any type, is going to have a small fee that buys the Unifier token and then burns it. So it's constant buy pressure, very much like PulseX, but on Ethereum. So good question, Taryn. Thanks for asking. Nate Mintz with the clapping it out. Upper Deck Dog, God bless you for all that you do. Long live Hex. Amen to that. Hex was pumping too. It's so fantastic to see. DeFi with Trustless Yield, folks. You know, dance with the one that brought you. Richard Hart has taught us everything we know, and we win together, folks. So thank you for being a part of this community and contributing, because there's no centralized organization. There's no marketing department. There's none of that stuff. We're just people getting together going, we're going to decree this value ourselves. And what do? We're putting our hope in something that doesn't change, an immutable contract on the blockchain that doesn't have admin keys. There's no OA. There's none of that stuff. So ultimately, it's in your hands. And so, you know what? You got to tell folks about it if that's what you want to do. But we've given the gift of the contract to the community. That's it. Magnus, what's going on? Rad Max, I've seen you in the chat. What's going on, Rad Max? I was checking out. I believe it was I forget the name of it. But the point is, what you're doing, social tokens in communities, it's so key. It's important, right? It's transformational. How are we building a community of people? Susie Q, what's going on? Nate Mintz, small town crypto, Texan token, Cowboys on the moon. Man, we're taking Cowboys to the moon. It's so funny how things work, right? Everybody, you know, how do you get attention? Probably the best marketing that you can possibly have for a token is your price chart. And, you know, some things have changed here in the last couple of days, and that is really exciting. And it's, you know, think about it this way. This is how I look at it. I've made probably 500 or more live streams. And in this process, it's just like scattering seed, right? You just kind of throw the seed out there and some of it grows and you don't know at you know, what progress it's making as it grows. You don't know who's watching, you don't know any of that stuff, but you're faithful to the day. And you come out and you chop some wood and you say, "Hey, we're gonna swing this axe one time and maybe this tree will fall." And what is incredible about that is there's a blessing in essentially daisy chaining good decisions together. And that's what we're trying to do, right? Because the future that we have together is us coming together in community, considering others in addition to ourselves. And what does that bring? Faithfulness. What is it? What is it? Righteousness. What is it? What does it do? There's something to it, folks. You know what I'm talking about. Lael Height, good morning. Love to see the pump. Everybody loves to see the pump, right? Up and to the right. It was pretty much like up and not even to the right. It was crazy. Is Nomic still having trouble with Texan token price feed? It's not that they're having trouble. They have chosen to limit Maximus, I think called Dow, as well as Hedron and us for reasons that we don't know. So we've reached out to them. We'll see. We don't know what their problem is. Probably because of the fact that the market cap of Texan is so big. And they're like, hold on, we can't have a new token, running up the charts this fast. We'll see. I don't know. But you know what? Just like anything, we don't need anything, right? We don't need anything except, automated market makers in like Uniswap or CowSwap. That's all we need. We don't need centralized. See, that's the cool thing about communities of people. It's about communication between people. It's not about artificial marketing or pumping something or banner ads or advertising or marketing. That's why organic growth is so much better, is because it's real growth. It's not artificial growth, right? And so we don't need Nomics. I mean, what is Nomics? But a place where anyone can get a feed. I mean, we could create a coin ranking site in about 15 minutes with AWS and a white label. So why are they creating that? They're trying to extract value through advertising, right? So we don't need them. We don't need them. And that's the beauty of DeFi, right? We work together as a community. And that's the whole point of this restoration concept, is that we are in the process of restoring something that is broken. We're going to talk about that. We got a great metaphor today. A great metaphor. Small town crypto, Unifier, Freedom Swap. Love the names. It just comes out of some cool things. Actually, it was Brandon from Rags to Riches, if you can believe it, the gentle ginger giant genius who came up with Freedom Swap. He's like, it's kind of like this freedom ecosystem. It's like a Freedom Swap. And I'm like, he's like, that's the name. I'm like, awesome. And then of course, Unifier is a story in and of itself. I've had that domain for a long, long time. And it's really interesting because Brandon was like, hey, we need something that's going to unify all these projects together. And it was like, well, Unifier is the name. Hexforce One, good to see you. Thanks for being here, White Dog. Pulse Chain, testnet V3 is imminent. Let the testing begin. Practice for the real thing. Billions of dollars at stake and lives about to change when this thing goes live. Wake dog. Amen to that. We've been waiting so long, and I was so geared up. I mean, like a year ago, I was geared up for like, hey, Pulse Chain's going to happen. I remember and I think Brandon remembers this too. We had this thing called the pre-viral show, and it was with me and Brandon and Crypto Panda, and that was like a lifetime ago. And we're like, it's coming, folks, it's coming. How many times have I said that? It's coming. Oh man, I'm in a good mood today. Crypto Pay, Dex Tools is good. There you go. Dex Tools is a good one. Yeah, when Mainnet goes live, Hexwood, what's up, peeps? Crypto Pay, amen. Christian Colin, hello, made it on time. Thanks for being here. What's funny? Usually I go into my monologue at this time, but I want to bring a guest in who just jumped into the green room, because we'll kind of flip flop this. I'm going to give you the content, and maybe I don't know if he can shut up for long enough for me to get through a monologue, because he gets bored really easily, and he's like, do I have to listen to Crypto Heartbeat preach at me for another like 20 minutes? This is not good. But maybe he'll be patient with us. Likely not. However, folks, we have to do this right. He's not only the CEO, he's the CFO, he's the CTO, he's the CIO, he's the supreme I done told you. He is the mayor of Sassy City, the commander of couch cushion maintenance in the islands. He's known as King Kamehameha. He's not internationally known, but he's been known to rock the microphone. He's the gentle ginger giant genius and the professor of potent pontification. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Pulse. Brandon from Rags to Riches.
What's up, dude?
Dude, hey, I still got it, man. I still got it.
You still got it.
I still got it for an old guy with the Metamucil, man. You see that chart behind you? Look at it. It's even popping up over your head.
Yeah, it looks good. You know, it's all right. I like it.
Dude, I loved your stream. You like rolled on people. You got this big pump in Texan, and then you just talk about guns all day.
Dude, you got to talk about what's important. Man, the intern got a hold of Biden's Twitter account yesterday and started posting some craziness. So I had to push back against Victoria there.
Dude, I love that you're telling the story about the guy that stuck his foot in your window, man, and you're like,
yeah.
Step.
Well, I didn't cock it. It was ready to go.
Wow.
I just made eye contact, and I must have looked crazy.
Oh, I bet. Crazy. What time of day and night was that?
12:30 at night. I kept the lights on, and I walked down the hallway with my shotgun, and I turned the corner, and he's got one foot in my kitchen.
Wow, that's scary, dude.
And he looks up at me because he's bent down. And he looks up at me. I look at him, and I see somebody behind him in the grass, and then they just take off running.
Oh yeah, you probably scared him. Well, you know, one of the cool things in Texas, I've told this story before, but it's my gun story. So I'm from Michigan originally, and I moved to Texas, and of course, you know, everybody's got guns in Texas. Mm-hmm. Well, I got called for jury duty.
Yeah.
And I was on a capital murder case.
Ooh.
And this guy had shot his 18-month-old with an AR-15 by accident, but they were holding him for capital murder, and it was bad situation. And so I'm on this jury pool of about 60 people, and it was a really inconvenient time for me because I was closing on my house and all this stuff. And I guess the way that they work it out is as you go into the room, you kind of sit in rows, and then they just kind of do it by people. Well, the defense and everybody had to interview all 60 people and ask them about what guns they had, because this was a gun case and they wanted to understand. Dude, there were 60 people, probably half of them were women. I swear to you, every single woman in that place had concealed carry.
Yeah, good.
And I was blown away, like people going through their arsenal of guns that they had. And I'm like, there's a reason we don't have people sticking their foot in our windows, because you do not know who's got literally on the other end of that shotgun. And it's interesting because, you know, you don't mess with Texas, man.
Yeah. What's crazy is you go on social media and you see these videos of people getting held up.
Yeah.
And you go into the comments, and like somebody comes into a store and he's got his pistol out and he's give me the money, this and that. And somebody shoots the guy. And then in the comments, I see somebody say, oh, well, he wasn't pointing the gun at him. Why did he have to shoot him?
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding me right now? Are we that castrated and neutered as a society to not understand that you don't know what the guy's going to do next with the loaded firearm pointing it at human beings demanding things? Yeah, it's a problem.
It's crazy, dude. Yeah, you do not mess with Texas.
Yeah.
So, dude, I've got actually some interesting things as it relates to guns, and I didn't realize it till just now that it's thematically makes sense. Well, this whole stream is about restoration. We're going to talk about restoration conceptually, but also as the restoration of the Republic. And what does it mean? Right. And I didn't say restoration of the Republic of Texas. I was saying restoration of the Republic because it means so many different things. But before we get there, I wanted to ask you about this pump, and I want to give you some of my thoughts. I've been watching some stuff this morning, trying to understand things, but I'm going to throw at you kind of how I see it, and I want you to push back on it and give me some commentary of what you think.
Yeah.
Okay, so folks, what you've been seeing in the market, at least from my perspective, obviously with Silicon Valley Bank and this uncertainty, what it's created in the minds of people, and I would consider regular people, not, Silicon Valley types or Wall Street types, is the regular person is losing confidence. And we know that because fiat currency is by decree, and it's an agreement that we have, that, the thing that threatens banks is bank runs. And that's driven all by confidence, and of course you've got for a long, long time fractional reserve currency. We've got people that are essentially leveraging themselves, and that's the system that we have. And so the biggest fear is that the people don't trust the banks. And so even though Biden and all those folks came in and they said, "Oh, everything's going to be fine," and the FDIC, which only covers people up to 250,000, which is like nobody at Silicon Valley Bank, and then of course people step in on this stuff, that those cracks in the foundation, they think they can shore them up by saying, "Oh, everything's going to be fine." And we do have some ability differently than Europe, but what has happened is, and I think we're going to see this, is the contagion is spreading. And we see that in the charts when it comes to how many, like, Bitcoin was up like 17% at one point yesterday, or right the day before, right after the Silicon Valley Bank stuff. And you and I have talked in the past about how much money it takes to move Bitcoin. Because, dude, it's thick, man. And in order to move it up 17%, it's like massive amounts of value coming in. And that's, of course, the people that are paying attention. The regular people, though, that are like, well, maybe I need to go get some cash out of the bank. I don't know that I want to trust this. I got people are probably buying safes and going, I'm going to put this money into a safe. But here's what we're seeing today. Today, Credit Suisse, and I've been listening to people, and no one is sharing the perspective that you have on Credit Suisse, because there's a bigger, deeper story in that you've shared. But here's the thing, folks, this contagion is getting into Europe. Well, Europe doesn't have really an economic union, right? We got kind of a political union, but when it comes to Europe, this could be way, way worse because of the fact that they can't really control things, right? They're separate in their economic base, and no one, like Germany, who's the strongest one, is going to bail out somebody in Switzerland. So, will you talk about your perspective on this contagion that I think is only driving a decoupling? And that's the bottom line, the decoupling of this asset class of crypto, and especially Bitcoin, as its correlation to the stock market is separating, and it's what we've dreamed of, right? That people would lose confidence in the current financial system, and they would see crypto as a place, as a hedge and a store of value. And it looks like that's what's happening. But there's way, way more pain to come, in my opinion, in the banks. So that's a lot to process. But do you mind kind of sharing your alpha on that in Credit Suisse?
Yeah. So here's one thing that I've noticed, following this sort of stuff for a while now. It's when you have a catastrophic failure of some institution that is propped up by the progressive left, what they do with the people that are responsible for that, they circle the wagons around those people. All right. So you would have a CEO that made all the wrong decisions, but because they donated $75 million to Black Lives Matter last year, because they were supporting all of Antifa and the unions that actually, in my opinion, worked to bring much of Western civilization down. Because of these reasons, it can't be seen that bank who supports all these great things or did actually anything bad, right? Here's my theory, and here's my here's what I think is going to have my prediction here with the CEO of that bank. He is going to be promoted. He's going to run another large bank very soon because he's from Silicon Valley and he toes that line. Now, that's the micro. What's the macro here? Banks like this have to be bailed out in order to keep the system running that makes politicians and unelected bureaucrats extremely rich.
Yep.
That's the bottom line. That's why it exists. That's what's happening here. If you don't toe the line, you're going to be cut out of the fold. What's Credit Suisse all about? Well, we did that stream, and I've mentioned this so many times. It's crazy to see this continue to happen and unfold. This bank's about to go insolvent. Now, why? It's because you go back to, again, when we put the sanctions on Russia, Credit Suisse was the only bank out of 12 banks in the general IMF in Europe that was willing to lend any money to companies that were willing to pull fossil fuels out of the ground. All the banks ganged up on them because of ESG. Okay. So, and ESG is basically just the agenda to stop fossil fuels completely, but actually using nations' money through legislation to basically centralize power, because they know that climate change really isn't something that's going to hurt people in the long run. So ESG stuck their necks out and they said, we're going to lend. And then 12 banks ganged up on ESG and they have been bleeding them dry in terms of being able to, the system that works now is if your balance sheet is wacko in the States or in Europe, there is a funding rate in between banks that the government's set. All right. Now you can lend and you can borrow money from your fellow bank to make sure that your ledger is correct at the end of every night or every week. And they aren't playing ball with Credit Suisse. They've cut them out. And now what we're seeing over the past year, they just can't participate anymore. They've targeted Credit Suisse, and this has been going on for a long time. This is not new. And they're not towing the line. So they got cut out, and this is what we see.
Wow. Well, it makes you believe that it's intentional.
It
And
is.
so if you now back out even further and you look at this, what I would consider is kind of evil secular religion of climate change, right? Is using this as a fulcrum to move people and to move the market and to destroy kind of the existing structures to build back better, or in this case, the Great Reset. And if you think about on food and oil and gas and all of these things, the war in Ukraine, everything, the intentionality of this, is this planned, right? Is the destruction of the banks. And if you look at it, obviously there's absolute rotten corruption from within. Signature Bank was a group that was shut down. And Signature Bank, I think Tucker Carlson did something on Signature Bank, and they went back into all these, videos that they had made, and they were so woke. They were so in this kind of woke culture, and all of this stuff is that, you said it before, go woke, go broke. Well, that's what's happening. But is it intentional? And I don't know that it is completely intentional, but it would make sense to me that, hey, the only way we're going to get people to adopt this new thing, which is the CBDCs, a digital ID, a social credit score, all this stuff that we know is going to give us a massive amount of control, and we're going to have more power, is that we have to destroy the legacy system. But they think that in destroying it, they're going to build back what they have. That's what makes what we're doing so important, and what Richard Hart is doing so important as an alternative. Because I feel like, I don't know if we're the only ones with common sense that are seeing what's happening, but I don't think this is just an accident that the banks are failing like this. I don't think it's just an accident. Look at what happened right now. Credit Suisse, 9% of it's owned by the Saudis.
Mhm.
And the Saudis have so much
Trillions
money.
of dollars.
So much money. The Saudis could easily, bail it out. But what they have a problem with is if they have more than 10% of a bank, they have all these other regulations. And they're like, listen, we already have 9%. We can't bail you out. No one else is going to bail them out. But in a way, if you think about this, you're the only one that I've ever heard that's been talking about how this was a coordinated attack against Credit Suisse. And it's because you didn't go woke. You're not a greenie. You're not a part of our worshiping at the altar of climate change. And folks, if you don't see this bigger narrative, is ultimately, if you don't go along with our program, we'll destroy you. That's how I see it.
Here's what's crazier. Okay, check this out. All right. Signature Bank. Signature Bank did not have to be taken over by the feds.
Right.
People don't realize that. They jumped the gun over the weekend and they said, you know what? We're just going to go ahead and do this because this represents an existential threat to the existing system. But Signature Bank had the plans in place to be able to be completely okay.
Yeah.
They took this opportunity to target these folks, to take it over, when in any other situation with any other bank that wasn't as high profile, they would still be running on their own right now without the FDIC and the feds taking over.
So what do you think about this then?
Yeah.
You know as well as I do that fear, right? Fear drives people, and you use fear to control people.
Yep.
So you've got this bank instability. You know that there's going to be contagion. You rescue your rich friends in Silicon Valley, right? Because you're not really helping the regular guy. You're just creating anxiety for the regular guy. He goes and says, oh man, what am I going to do in my business? How am I going to cover my payroll? I'm going to go get cash out of the bank, which is essentially this bank run. He puts that in his safe, but the government knows, and I think this is very clever of them if it's intentional, is to say you're going to run out of money, right? Like you can't pull out, there's not enough money to pull out. So you're going to pull out what you think you need. But what is going to end up happening is this contagion is going to spread across the world. Well, what ends up happening here is that, let's say the money printers do get turned back on. What that does is it creates essentially the purse strings requirement, like this idea that you have to rely on us to save you. And so it's almost an artificial catastrophe where you pulled this money out, you are in fear now, the banks might fail, and we get to come in and save the day with our version of UBI. We know that the robots are coming to take your job, so we're going to do universal basic income. We're going to help you out. Well, they've kind of indoctrinated the people to just rely on the state for everything. And so, how would you adopt this? They look around, they've looked at these pilot programs. People are not adopting CBDCs willingly.
Mhm.
So now we have to have a situation in which they're required to. Well, what do? You destroy their businesses, you destroy things through inflation. Now you have the banks fail, you pull your money out, right? Everything gets, fear, 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 fear. And they go, we are here to save the day with our CBDCs. Folks, if you don't see what's happening and why we have to have an alternative, how do you restore the republic? Folks, you have to do the fundamental things to provide an alternative that's not based on centralized control or centralized parties.
Phew, man, it's crazy here. Think about this, Matt. So all throughout history, we've got the 3Ds. We've got debt, deficit, and then debasement. So this is the pattern that governments follow. They go into debt, and then they can't pay their debt anymore, so they start running a deficit.
Yep.
So then they debase the currency by printing more, and it devalues. Do you know the last straw? Do you know the final evolution of that pattern? It's switching currency. All right. Now, if we're in a global currency right now, in a global economic situation where everybody's pretty much just piggybacking off each other, everything's connected now. All right. You don't have any accountability to other nations for your sovereign debt. What they're going to do, because everything is so connected banking wise across the world, they're just going to reset the ledger, make it go away, and then transition into this new currency, which the transition into new currency has happened many times in many different civilizations. This is not the first time it's done it. So when you run up debt in one thing too much, it gets wiped clean. Either that or you go to war. I don't think war is going to be the thing to do this time because we're so interconnected. China is so dependent on the U.S., for their exports. We're so imports, and Russia. Everything is connected right now. So I think that again, Matt, the downfall of what's happening right now, which is centralization and globalization, is that the socioeconomic classes are beginning to detach, and there is no middle class. There's really rich people, and then there's everybody else. And I don't want to become a servant or slave to that system.
Well, and when you think about it in those terms, and people have mentioned this in the chat as well, is that when you see slavery coming, right? You're already enslaved, right?
Mhm.
Debt, consumer slavery, this idea of you've got to have it now, you got to have the next thing. And of course, the West especially, but in the US, I mean, if you really compare yourself, you're actually very rich, even if you're living on the very edge in the United States. But it's this dependency that's been created, and you're going to have no place to go. Remember lockdowns and COVID? I mean, destroyed businesses. I mean, remember the people fighting back, like, I just want to serve a hamburger and a beer to somebody, and you're not letting these people walk into my establishment. And you think about what happened then, and then what's at stake here. And, that's why I considered it to be evil, is because if you want to control a population of people like this, and you're planning these things and sowing all these seeds of dissent and all of that, I want you to juxtapose that against community that we have in crypto. And I want people to see how brilliant I think Richard Hart knows he's smart, but to have him see these things ahead of time, it was a long time ago that we sacrificed for Pulse Chain, but that was for freedom of speech. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, that's kind of clever way of doing, ICO, is you can do this sacrifice. Well, no, he meant it. It was literally a political statement saying censorship. Well, what happened after the Pulse Chain sacrifice? Everybody, the Twitter files, all these things showed the censorship. Then PulseX, the sacrifice, $1 billion given into that. people recognizing, hey, there may be a way we can win together with this, but that was about freedom of movement. Well, now they've got the 15-minute cities. They're talking about how they control things. And now we've got banking failure. Well, how do you control a population of people? You keep them from having resources. But what's evil about it is that you don't realize that you're exporting death.
Mhm.
When people can't get food, they die.
Mhm.
And you're fine probably because you're like, yeah, I live in America. I've got this ability, But here's the thing, folks. This is a coordinated attack, and I think a coordinated enslavement because people really like China's model. They like the fact that, hey, they control these things and they've got people clamped down and they can make any decision that they want and basically get to the point where there's no one that can push back. And that's why America is such an interesting place. And we talk about Texas and guns. I mean, we started this with this, is because it's really difficult to control somebody that's got a shotgun.
Mhm.
Dude, this is really big.
Yeah, it's incredible, so think about this, man. I was actually listening. So I listen to talk radio
Yep.
when I'm driving around. And this morning, I'm listening to the headlines, and you know how like the big syndicated ABC
Yeah.
news cuts
Yeah.
in like once every 30 minutes. And I heard 3 stories back to back to back about how horrible crypto was.
Hmm.
And they're talking about Sam Bankman-Fried, and then they do an article about how the FBI said in 2017, $997 million worth of crypto fraud occurred, and then 5 years later, it's like $2 billion, 190, $2 billion worth, and it's just getting so much worse, and blah blah. Blah. Why, guys? You got to take a step back and understand why are they attacking crypto? Because crypto is the actual threat.
Yeah.
Crypto is the threat, and crypto is the answer to the problem that they don't want to solve. They will keep the problem around forever because you can legislate against problems and you can control when there's problems around. You can't control when there's solutions and answers.
Yeah.
So they're trying to suppress that. It's quite obvious, and crypto is the life raft for the lower and middle classes, and that's just the
Yeah.
bottom line.
Yep. And what an amazing time that we live in, folks. And so you're hearing from Rags, you're hearing from me. If you're new in the Texan token, I want you to understand something. And this is actually working out perfectly for this theme. Folks, restoration, right? This idea of restoring something back to its original function, right? Brandon, I don't know about you, but I watch a lot of these videos on YouTube, and it's kind of the thing I like to do just to kind of like calm my brain at night is I like to watch people make stuff. Like I like watching knife making, for example, but I also like these restoration one. And I saw a video the other day where somebody was magnet fishing. Have you ever seen this?
Oh, I love those. Yeah.
It's so crazy. So he's got this rope or whatever and a big old magnet, big old neodymium magnet, and throws it in and pulls stuff out of this river. And it's, why am I watching this stuff?
Right.
Or he pulls a gun out, and this gun is like coated in muck. And then it's, completely rusted. And of course, you think about it and you're like, man, what is this? So I want to share this with you and show you this this image I've got, because this is really the theme of this whole thing. And I think it ties into your gun conversation earlier. And do you have a minute for this, or do you need to roll?
I've got 1 minute and 32 seconds.
Is that right?
No,
Right.
just
Okay,
kidding.
cool. All right. So let me see if I got this window. There it is right there. All right, check this out.
All right.
Dude, what is that?
That's a Uzi.
Isn't that an Uzi? Yeah, like I haven't seen an Uzi since what? Like I don't know, Miami Vice?
Well, it's not. Yeah, it's that's a good one though. That's cool. Yeah, Uzi.
So
9 mil.
this is just a random image, right?
Yeah.
This wasn't the one I watched, but I wanna impress upon all of you something that are watching this. This gets pulled out of the muck, right? And it's rusty, and we would agree that it doesn't function the way it ought to, right? And here's the thing I think is really big about restoration. We know that things are wrong. We know that the entire system is wrong, it's broken, and the corruption, right? The rust and the muck and all this stuff has gotten inside the joints of everything. And I would say not only in the gun of this Uzi, but into the joints and marrow of your own soul. And that this corruption is something, in the Jewish tradition, they talk about, yeast gets through the bread, right? A little bit of yeast goes a long way. Well, they had unleavened bread because this idea that essentially corruption basically contaminates the whole system. And of course, from my worldview, this is the problem, is that the human heart, we have this choice between good and evil. And what do? When we have an opportunity and an advantage, guess what we do? We take advantage of it. And we literally go after control and centralization and all of this stuff. So it's corrosive. Well, this picture of this gun, and funny that you mentioned guns, is that you are this gun, Brandon.
Okay.
You might be better than an Uzi because
Yeah.
you to me are more like an AR-15 personally, or
Sure.
maybe like a sniper rifle. But I just want you to see this metaphor for your own self and for anybody that's watching this. Folks, you've been created for a purpose. I'm not saying you're a gun. I'm not saying you're a spoon or a fork or a spork. But if we use this analogy, this corruption has gotten to the point where you're almost unrecognizable. You're almost unrecognizable. In some cases, you don't even know what you are made to be. You don't know your purpose is. You don't know what the plan is for your life. You barely even can recognize yourself. And you know it because of this corrupt system. And what's really fascinating about it is I watch these videos of these guys pull these guns out of the river. And you know what they start doing? They're like, all right. So they put it into like electrolysis process and it knocks off the rust. And then they put it into, then they wire brush it. And then they take it in and they put it into this chamber and they'll do like a sandblasting with like a silicon medium. And it makes it really, really raw.
Mm-hmm.
And then they use bluing, this stuff that actually puts a protective film over, which is actually an oxide layer, and it looks like gunmetal again. And then they're using oils and WD-40 and all this stuff and get the chamber working and clean everything up. And of course, at the end of the video, every time they shoot the gun. And what's amazing to me about this concept of restoration and why I think we're interested in watching these things get restored, because we are in the process ourselves of doing this exact same thing. And crypto and Richard Heart Ecosystem and Vertically Aligned Ecosystem and Crypto Heartbeat and Rags to Riches, the very name of rags that become riches, is a picture of restoration. And I would say this, the human heart is corrupt, right? When given the opportunity, we step on other people's heads. Folks, this time right now that just happened yesterday, why did the Texan token go up 63% in a day? I can't put my finger on one thing. I just know more buyers than sellers. But here's the thing. Without vision, the people perish. We are speaking into existence a new system. This new system, though, you can't function as a paperweight at the bottom of a river. You have to be clean. Mm-hmm. You have to be restored, because Brandon is an AK-47 or he's a sniper rifle. You might be something else. You might be a circular saw. I don't know what tool you are. I don't know what function you were made for. But here's the thing. We've all been corrupted and corroded. And you have a purpose and a plan for your life. That's why I try to keep telling you, you're not an accident. But everybody in this world is saying, just sit down. You don't have to get, fit. You don't have to get healthy. Just let us take care of you. We'll throw a rope down to you. We'll pull you up. And the problem is we've gotten used to not functioning as intended. Mm-hmm. And so here's the thing, folks. We are in this journey together, that in a process by which we look at the system and say, we need an alternative, is that we're actually, I think, working with the creator of the universe to actually restore this thing to what its intended purposes are. And that is by sandblasting the damn thing, by oiling it up and saying, you know what? We can't do everything alone. We have to do it together. There's many parts of this body. And if we work together, we can unlock an abundance. Because everything I read and see is I look in the nature and the system and I go, wow, there's an abundance. But the place there's no abundance is in the human heart and in the corrupt systems. And it's getting to the breaking point. But why is there pain? So that we would pay attention and say, you know what? We are called to more than this. And so I use that term. I wanted to talk about restoration that way. I'll talk about the Republic of Texas in a second. But what are your reactions to that, Brandon? I know you're not like into some of the mushy stuff, but does that speak to you?
Yeah. One of the things, Matt, that that I remember from my childhood was you hear people talk about potential.
Yeah.
You hear that, especially like in secondary school and lower education. Hey, you have so much potential, and athletes, you have so much
Yep.
potential, and
Yep.
actors and actresses, so much potential. But it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything without hard work,
Yeah.
because the hard work is what unlocks the potential. The hard work of restoring that thing is what unlocks the ability for that firearm to shoot a round out that it couldn't have otherwise. So you have to constantly be working on yourself. You have to constantly be working, really, too, holding other people accountable around you, working on them, because ultimately your circle determines who you are as well. So that was the parallel that I kind of drew from that, Matt.
Yeah. And there's this interesting combination because the things that are true tend to be counterintuitive, right?
Hmm.
Because there's only so much you can do to fix yourself, right?
Hmm.
And I think about, you remember those oil spills? Remember the Exxon Valdez back in the 80s? All of these animals were covered with oil. And I imagine, if we think about ourselves as kind of a duck or a
Yeah.
goose that's been covered in oil, we got web feet. We don't know how to clean ourselves. And someone comes along and says, "Hey, I've got some palm olive,
Yeah.
right? And I'm going to wash you clean." When you have to realize that you're infested with essentially this corruption. And there's some redeeming process that happens in this. And of course, I see this spiritually with saying, what does it mean to lose oneself and tap into the purpose that I was created for in this system that was created? And I think a lot of it is what you're saying. It's not it's faith without works is
Yep.
dead.
Hmm.
Well, it's a combination of things because I think that there are people that I see that are overconfident in saying, "Look at me. I worked really hard. I did all this stuff. I lifted these weights. I am now God." And there's a fine line between those who let go and are clean and those who are self-cleaning. Because what happens is you think you're God. Because
Hmm.
what you do is this whole transhumanist movement is all about, hey, we're going to create these systems and these processes to become something and we are going to then live forever or whatever it may be. Is that this is the constant story of mankind trying to find ways in which we can become God.
I Can I share with you a video that
Yeah, I'll put it
I
up.
don't know how well this connects, so I apologize ahead of time, but we're talking about the banking system,
Yep.
and there's a lot of parallels to heroin addiction with the banking system in my mind. And we're talking about me, and the ability for humans to go fix all their problems, and taking these giant leaps and feeling good, but it ultimately doesn't really solve anything internally for them because
Yep.
we're missing wisdom and spirituality. I want to play this. This is one of the most impactful videos, like, in my brain, that I've actually never shared with anybody, but I think it applies well here.
Go ahead. Dude.
Right?
Yeah, that's strong, man.
I
There's so
mean,
much there.
there's so much there. It's just it transcends so many problems that we like. It just illustrates perfectly. Like, you can put that into the banking system and bailouts and inflation, and
Yep.
you can put that into personal stuff, and you can put that into, what we're dealing with dude, it's just it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man, and it's so simple. That's what's crazy about it.
Well, and I think that, what is this human experience, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and you think about, why do we read ancient literature? Why do we look for wisdom? Why do we talk about these things? Why do we share videos? And I really appreciate you sharing that, because it brings a facet to this that I hadn't thought of.
Mhm.
You could say, well, that's addiction, right? Well, what is addiction? We're putting something that's external to us, right? And we're saying, if I just had this, everything would be okay.
Mhm.
And of course, when it's new and shiny and new, you fly. It gives you wings, man. One Lambo, let's go. And you can insert anything that we desire here. One of the things that's fascinating to me, and I'm going to get real serious with you because you got serious with
Let's
me.
go. Let's go.
Let's go. The 10 Commandments, what's number one? You should not have any gods before me. Why in the world would God say that first? And if you think about this, everything that's external to his creation
Mhm.
and really who you are is essentially a God that we serve, right? Money, right? These things are tools, right? What are opioids for, right? What are guns for? What is love for? What is marriage for? What are, all of these things have a certain framework to them that has been created. And if you look at things the way I do, you say, all right, this was created by it being spoken into existence. If you think about what separates us from the animals, is the fact that we have the ability to do the same thing. We can create by speaking. And what I mean by that is it's the thinking process of deciding what we're going to do. So you could say, hey, if I get up in the morning and I work out, I'm probably going to be healthier. If I refrain from eating too many sugars and I focus on these things, it's going to make me more sharp and attuned to doing things. And obviously, consequently, if I take drugs and I get addicted to them, it's gonna take its toll on me. Well, what you're doing is you're saying, hold on, I've been created a certain way. And if I go with this program and I understand what's good for me and I have wisdom, then things will be better for me. Well, so many people in this world are trying to take the tools of this world and to put them in place of the thing that really truly could make their
Yeah.
heart
Yep.
sing, right?
Yep.
Because I would submit to you this. Why do we do drugs? Why do we want to have a lot of money? Why do we want all of these fancy clothes and people? People want to be approved of. People want to belong. People want to fit in. They want people to socially accept them. And what is it at the core? We feel we're fearful and we feel inferior and we feel like we've either got to show someone by socially signaling to them that we're better than we think we are. But what's amazing about this, or we've got to escape into something like drugs or something. My life is so unmanageable that I have to do something just to forget about all this stuff. And when you start to recognize that all of the things external to us are essentially potentially gods to us. I mean, even when you think about sex, for example, there's two ends of the spectrum. It's either a god, and I think a lot of men in pornography see sex as a god. It's got to be like this. And then, or on the other end, those who have been, taken advantage of by sex see it as gross. And what's interesting is in its right place, the way things were made, it's actually a gift. It's actually for your protection in marriage.
Mhm.
But what's amazing about it is we've taken these things and we've condensed them. I don't know if you know this, but sugar comes from sugar cane. And sugar cane is one of the most high fiber most high fiber
Food
plants
plants.
that
Yeah.
exist. So what do? We extract it out into molasses and then we process it into sugar, right? Refined white sugar. What you don't realize is the number one refined sugar in this world that exists naturally is honey. But guess what? Because the bees and the pollen, do you know what happens if you eat too much honey? You will vomit.
Oh, vomit? I thought
You
you
will
turned
vomit
into a
because of what's in the honey. So the natural version of the consolidation of sugar actually has something that keeps you from consuming too much of it. But what do we do is we take the current structure of the system and we refine it, and then we freebase it
Yeah.
because we need that hit. And so I would just say this to everyone. We're talking about restoration. We're talking about what does this look like? Folks, you were created for a purpose, and everybody's got a different role to play. But you've been lied to. You've been lied to, and people that in my opinion, do not have your best interest in mind are desiring for you to believe something about yourself that's not true. You are valuable. You're not an accident. The sea level isn't rising 400 feet. You are being kept in fear and in bondage. And in my opinion, never before in my lifetime did I see that we had an opportunity with one key function, and it's a gift in my opinion. Like literally, God gave us the gift of the tool of the blockchain that good people, if we animate the tool by considering others in addition to ourselves, we animate it with goodness by loving other people. We take a tool of Web3, the gift of Satoshi Nakamoto, we take the concept of decentralization, and we can make this place better. Now, can we fix it entirely? No, because you can't sandblast yourself. You can't wipe the oil off yourself.
Yeah. Now, Satoshi Nakamoto was that World War II general from Japan, right? Nakamoto.
Yeah, you're right. Nakamoto. Sorry.
No.
Satoshi Nakamoto.
I know you know who he is, but if we didn't talk about it, people would be like,
Nakamoto.
"Oh, look what he said."
Not in what's amazing about this, folks, is I want to challenge you. You know, I don't want to preach to people and say, hey, you got to believe what I believe, but I will say this. You don't have to look too far to realize that there's a framework to this world. But I will say this. The story of the creation is that there is one who lies. And there are many, many people who perpetuate those lies. And what are those lies? They're basically saying, you're a victim, you're disabled, you don't have any strength or power, you do not have any value, you're just an accidental person.
Mhm.
And when people can demean you, and it's happened throughout history, to make you less than human and not having value, they will kill you. They will oppress you. They will take advantage of you. The catalyst for the revolution is peaceful.
Mhm.
And it's through decentralization. And it's what makes the idea of America so great is that people said when we could be kings, we decided that we would give the people the power. So the restoration of the republic, what is it? It's returning it to popular control. It's taking it and decentralizing it. And so Brandon and I have committed to each other and to our team that we were going to tokenize communities. Imagine the scenario. I talked to Nate Smith with the TNM last night,
Mhm.
and I said to him, hey, how about that pump? And he goes, man, it's a blessing beyond blessing. You have no idea. And I said to him, I said, listen, I told you, I was like, you want to raise $1 million or $1 billion? It's not me. I'm just seeing what this system can potentially do if people come together and are concerned. You've got a bunch of people that see things the same way. There's trust in their community. If they can understand that they can speak it into existence by their own decree, we can transform the nature of independence. Same thing in Ophir, the people in the churches. People are mucked up. They're a gun at the bottom of this mucked up river. And it's like someone snatching you out with a magnet, and they're going to literally restore you, and you're going to function the way you were intended to function. And I'm going to tell you, if that doesn't set your heart on fire, you are not breathing air.
Wow, dude. I mean, I think I can speak for everybody else in chat and say, man, that's brilliant. You're spot on in every single way. And the only thing I can really add to this, man, is I think that people always have the binoculars and they're looking away. They're looking out, and they don't ever have the binoculars and point it inwards. And I think that's really the shift in society that we've seen. It's a shift away from those binoculars pointing back at them. Now, think about this, Matt. This came into my head when you were talking about, people feeling sorry for themselves and people feeling like they have to rely on the government to solve their problems, this and that. That's another distraction from looking inside, because if you have to depend on the government to do things, you're not going to take the initiative yourself to fix yourself.
Right.
And if you can fix yourself and we can all fix ourselves, then it's going to be much better for everybody. Now, here's another thing. We're talking about crypto. We're talking about an actual price chart behind our faces here, Matt.
Yeah.
This is why I said yesterday, the price chart is not the priority. The community is the priority. The price chart can help, but we don't need to focus on that. We need to focus on this message. We need to focus on galvanizing these ideas that so many people have out there, but they just don't have a voice. If I can be anything, Matt, it's going to be an unapologetic voice for these folks.
Yeah.
I know how they feel. I've been out in the communities. I talk to people. You do too. You know how this is.
Yep.
So, Matt, that's why we're here. We're here to build community.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, the price chart is just a reflection of what's happening internally. I mean, why do you go to the doctor and get your blood taken? You want to see what's status, how are we doing? But it is a lagging indicator, right? Because what is really happening is the seeds that are being planted, the care and concern that's been shared. But folks, I just want to challenge you. What if the only way you could win is by helping other people win? Now, I think Brandon, you and I'm steeped in this whole, spiritual story, right? And you're a very pragmatic person. I would challenge this. I do not believe you're capable of cleaning yourself. Okay. That's fundamentally how I believe. I think you are capable of, once you are clean, making yourself extremely effective and efficient.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are people who, in the process of trying to go, I am going to take the bull by the horns. I am going to become my own God. And I think of somebody who talks like that. It always fails, because you see a guy who gets 5 Lombardi trophies. And when he's interviewed at the end of this, he goes, it's not enough. I still feel lost. And why is that? Why can't you sit still? Why can't you have peace in any and every situation? Because it doesn't work. The things of our hands may improve our biceps and our definition, and it may take certain things and be more alert or those things. But here's the thing I would challenge you with. If you recognize that this world isn't just made up of you, and that there is an amazing world of possibilities if you will let go, being truly clean and literally moving forward in your intended function and purpose, you have the number one currency, and that is peace.
Yep.
And everybody is looking for peace. And here's the crazy thing. It transcends all understanding, and it's amazing because it's a mystery, but it's one of these things where people will look at you and they'll say, why is it that you're so calm in the midst of this storm? And you're like, I don't know. It's not because I worked out today. It's because something has changed in me. And so I just would submit to people that this restoration process isn't something you flip a switch on. But what's amazing is, as we come together around the money, and we change the very fundamentals of who's in control by letting go of the control, looking at an immutable contract with no admin keys, decentralized completely, censorship resistant, trustless yield. What we're gaining out of this is the ability to create a gap. And that gap is where your nose gets above the water, you buy back some of your time, and you start thinking differently. Because so many people are trapped within a cycle of consumer and debt slavery. And to me, that's why I say we're freeing the captives. How are we doing it? By giving. Yes. We're going to give and give and give and give and give. And here's the thing, folks. It doesn't take a lot of people to go, you know what? A great way we give in crypto is this. Hey, why don't I come over this weekend and I'll show you how to get your MetaMask wallet? Oh, yeah, you need to know how to set up a custom token? Hey, well, let me tell you about why immutability is important. Hey, I've got this book, or hey, watch these things at mycryptoclassroom.com. It's not hard, but you're not selling anything. You're actually a beggar showing another beggar where to find food. We have found it that this is the amazing thing about crypto, and the amazing thing about this new financial system that is starting to decouple as of like yesterday, is the fact that it is outside of government control. And because it's going to be so attractive for yield, and everybody that's pulling their money out and pushing things in and hedging their investments are going to see that, hold on a second, these people over here in this vertically aligned ecosystem, they're actually not doing so bad. And when Richard said, he said, you know what, we're those crazy loon birds that are going to end up owning everything. I just fear and I hope that we don't just get all of the resources and then create a new system to lord over people. Because the problem isn't the money. The problem is in the human heart, and it's corrupt. And the fact of the matter is you have a choice. Are you going to choose good or are you going to choose evil? And that's the big, big story of all this stuff.
Yep. And the gift, folks, the gift that you may not realize yet, you may or may not, is when you come into this money isn't going to be for you. This money is going to increase your ability to be able to help your neighbors. Okay. And if I can tell you that now, and then you arrive at that point later, it's going to give you direction, because a lot of folks who deal with the same thing, Matt, you and I have talked about this. You come into money and you don't know what to do. So you go out and you go to Las Vegas and you do this and you do that, and you're trying to have a great time. But then after about a year or two, you're sitting back and you're like, wow, like what's next?
Yeah.
Well, guys, if you start from the start, it's all about helping people. Do whatever you can, help your community, help your friends, help your family. It increases your ability to do that.
And the beauty of that too, Brandon, is, and then this is what I've discovered. There's a lot of people that want to guilt you and manipulate you into helping them. Okay. And I want to warn you too, there's a warning that comes with this. You know, in the Jewish tradition, there's this idea of what is a true tithe. You know, a tithe and an offering is the first fruits of what you've been given. It's the best. And why do we give the best? Because we're thankful that its origins are not just from the sweat of our brow, because we cannot make the seed germinate.
Yep.
That's the system that God created. But what's amazing is when we give of ourselves, it's not just money. But here's the thing. When you shift, right? When you shift your thinking, right? You know, there's a story. I've got a friend whose wife, she has a friend who made some poor decisions in her life, and they loved this family, and they were getting divorced. And my friend's wife is like, you know, I don't endorse what she's done or they've done, right? But I can't not be friends with them. And so you're like, well, I don't want to promote this behavior, but I can't not be a friend. And so she went to her friend and they reconnected. And she basically said to her, hey, what are you doing? And as soon as she said that, this woman just broke down crying.
Yeah.
You know when you're doing the right thing and when you're not doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you know when it's damaging other people and when it's not. And sometimes the greatest thing we can do to give isn't money. It's our time and our care for people. And I would say that, folks, a true tithe isn't just go give money to the museum. No. This isn't really about money. This is about giving of oneself, which is our creative ability and our time and our energy. But here's the thing. When you're digging ditches and you got to show up at 4 a.m. tomorrow, you don't have any margin. There's no time for you to do that. And that's the beauty of this. All of these things are tools. We animate these tools with the goodness of the choices that we make. And folks, if we're not, this is some of the most important things to get better. I mean, you can work out and still be a pain in the ass.
Dude, absolutely, man. And you're multiplying your ability to do those good things. Absolutely, 100%.
So I'm going to wrap it up. And here's what I'm going to wrap it up with. You know why the Texan token's pumping, Brandon?
Why?
Because a bunch of people are believing that others are equally as important to themselves and they're giving of themselves. That's it.
Yep.
That's it. This is not, we're just leading this charge and telling you, hey, folks, if you want to win, you got to help other people win. And that's the only reason. Because Brandon and I have got a number of stories about people who have reached out to us that have significant resources. And what they're saying to us? They're saying, guys, keep going. Keep going. This is different. And this message will get out and it'll be reflected as a lagging indicator on the chart. We are going to do what's right. Thank you to Richard Hart. He is the pioneer. He's taken all the arrows. And if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be in this situation. But I'm going to tell you, folks, this is a revolution that leads to a renaissance. And even the Republic of Texas, the people themselves. We will preserve what's right. And where will good people go? They may come to Texas. But that's just a political organization. The actual solution lies within your own corrupt heart. We have to restore it first. And when we then think of others and love other people today, it accumulates and we see it reflected in the chart. That's it. That's the truth.
Awesome, man. I'm not going to state anything else. I'm not going to say anything.
Dude, thanks for coming in. I love that video. That
Yeah.
really, I didn't expect that. I didn't know that was coming, and it's so super. So thanks, folks, for joining the Pulse today. My name is Matt. That's Brandon. He is he doesn't want to tell you this, but he is the gentle, ginger, giant genius. He's everybody's big brother. Thanks for everything that you do, Brandon. Thanks for your heart for other people. And folks, do not mess with Texas. Take care, everybody.